The gun debate has been front and center, especially following the mass shooting that happened at the supermarket here in Buffalo. There is new legislation at the state and federal levels, plus a big Supreme Court ruling last week that actually expanded gun rights. A lot of movement on this, but tonight we want to focus in on a specific part of the overall conversation, so-called red flag laws. They allow judges to take away weapons if they think that those gun owners might hurt themselves or others. The Tops massacre certainly brought this to the forefront, with people asking if our red flag law here in New York could have prevented the shooter from getting his guns. Well, there are 19 states that have some form of this type of law, and it really varies on who can petition a court, whether it's police, family, doctors, even school leaders. In many cases, a criminal record or history of mental illness is not necessary to lose your gun. If the judge rules that the gun owner is a danger, the weapon can be taken away for maybe a day, a week, a month, or even a year. Well, here in New York specifically, when a red flag order petition is made, state police get involved. And officials tell Two on Your Side that they are completely overwhelmed with the number of cases. And when they do make it to court, officers say it's not really a fair fight because they don't usually have legal representation on their side. As our Ron Plants reports tonight, that means that those under investigation often get to keep their weapons.
When it comes to asking a court to remove someone's weapons under what are known as Emergency Risk Protection Orders, or ERPOs, some state police investigators say they are now being swamped by a process that can tie them up for days with paperwork and evidence gathering, even as they must handle other criminal cases ranging from murder to robbery.
Thus far in 2022, we've done 4 times as many as we did in the same time frame of 2021. So we have quadrupled the work.
But beyond the workload for such cases, investigators say the actual ERPO hearing before a state Supreme Court justice sometimes does not go their way with a legal issue.
During this hearing, our members are representing the state's interests, while the respondent oftentimes has a skilled defense attorney. Our people are fantastic, some of the best police officers in the country, but we're not attorneys. We're investigators, we're police officers, we're troopers. So it's really not a fair playing field to have someone that's not an attorney going toe-to-toe with an attorney. Obviously, we would appreciate if the AG's office sent an attorney to represent our members on this. We just need someone to step up and represent the state's interests.
Diamond says a judge did get involved.
He wrote a formal letter to the AG, to the governor, and to the state police saying these investigators are appearing in court and they're not prepared to make these legal arguments that an attorney would be prepared to make. And the AG's office responded in writing saying that they would not be representing us in these cases.
The governor responding last week when asked about this situation.
Our state police are involved in this, as well as working out the issues related to representation in the courts. So in 1 month, 90% of the temporary orders granted. That's a good record, and we're going to continue, though, enhancing this, getting the education materials out there, formalized training. That is just beginning.
It's nerve-wracking because God forbid they go out and they do something tragic. We didn't do everything we could to prevent that from happening.
And Ron joins us live now. So after the mass shooting here in Buffalo, Ron, there was, of course, a lot of attention on this red flag law. It's one thing if you make more petitions out there, right? But if police officers are losing their cases because they don't have legal counsel, it seems like a broken system. The question really is, how can state police get more support, and any idea on when we might see this change?
Good question, Michael. Again, we heard what the governor said at last week's press conference, that they would be working on this with the state police, including formalized training, as she put it, and information materials. Well, the Police Investigators Union president, again, Timothy Diamond, we spoke to there, says they don't have the experience or law school training to handle that. And while he says the state has provided a few attorneys since the union brought this up last week from the AG's office, more such hearings this week have no representation, according to him. Diamond says the state should have had a plan and budget to support the red flag laws following the governor's original press conference. Mike? Now, the AG's office, by the way, only says that they're working on this situation with the governor's office. That's what we got today, Michael.
So, Ron, one other thing. What about locally? I mean, do we have specific examples of this happening here in which people simply because no attorney showed up to argue the other side that they got to keep their weapons, and maybe state police felt like they shouldn't have?
Yeah, well, they didn't give us any specifics. I don't think they can. But investigator Diamond claims in such ERPO hearings right here in Western New York, specifically with just investigators in court, he says they have seen guns returned to people who are regarded as dangerous by law enforcement. And the governor, by the way, mentioned a 90% success rate in their press conference there. What about the other 10% of these cases? Again, nothing further so far from her staff today, Michael.
All right, something to continue following. Our Ron Plant's reporting live tonight. Ron, thank you. I want to stick with the gun issue right now for a moment. And in Albany, Governor Kathy Hochul has called lawmakers back for a special session this Thursday to discuss new gun legislation after, you'll remember, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down New York's state law that had required proper calls in order to get a concealed carry permit. That law had been on the books for more than a century. One issue that is up for discussion is the term sensitive places, those areas where you cannot bring a gun. Some lawmakers would like to see that expanded to include all public transit, schools, bars, even restaurants. What's going to happen at this special session? Joining us live right now is Bernadette Hogan. She is now the City Hall Bureau Chief for the New York Post, but she's long covered the state capitol. Bernadette, it's always great to see you. We're kind of wondering, as we're on the other side of the state, wondering what you're hearing there in Albany in terms of what we can expect to come out of Thursday's special session.
Right. So Governor Kathy Hochul scheduled this extraordinary session for Thursday and Friday in response to the recent Supreme Court decision. Now, and of course, as a result of that decision, it's made it easier to carry a gun in public. The state of New York, all of the leaders in New York City, Democratic leaders mainly in New York City and in Albany have just said that this was a decision that will really impact and hurt New Yorkers, especially with the spike in gun violence. So right now, what we can expect out of Thursday and Friday is a strengthening of what the state can do to be more objective in terms of getting people gun licenses. So as you said, sensitive areas like schools, hospitals, bars, restaurants, anywhere where they sell alcohol. Also, more extensive training requirements, and that could mean a live and in-person interview, maybe more hours to train in order to get one of these permits. But right now there's no legislation, but we'll probably see something perhaps later tonight, early tomorrow. Of course, today is an election day, so the governor and other Democratic lawmakers and of course Republicans as well, but they're very concerned with the election today. But once we hit tomorrow morning, they're going to be eyes on Thursday and Friday and see what they can do in order to pass laws that would be able to protect gun rights in New York.
Bernadette, I've only got about 30 seconds left, but is there any reason to believe that they're going to bring other issues into this special session? I mean, obviously guns very important to Democrats, which control this whole state government right now, but you also have this Supreme Court ruling about abortion. Any word there that they might try to weave that in and also try to address that issue?
Right, that has also come up. Of course, New York, the right to an abortion is still intact in New York because a state law was passed a couple of years ago. So, however, lawmakers do want to pass a women's equality amendment. It would further expand rights and of course, protections for abortion. That, of course, won't have as much meaning as if Roe v. Wade was not codified in New York. However, lawmakers do want to show some sort of stand in solidarity with those that want the right to an abortion.
So a couple of big issues up for discussion over the end of this week there in Albany. Bernadette Hogan is a reporter with the New York Post. Always appreciate getting your insight on what's happening at the Capitol. Great to see you.
Thank you.